Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and since the holidays are coming up, Rosh Hashana, the high holidays, we're going to talk about the holidays. As you see here, we have a few shofars. We're going to get into that. It's usually you see symbols of it, and we're going to explain it like I say in a second. Let me just explain what the holiday is all about, and then we're going to get into what the shofar really is. You hear about Rosh Hashana, Yom Kippur, and you hear the word high holidays. It's the high holidays for the Jewish people. What's high holidays? There's the only holidays. There are three major holidays besides Rosh Hashana, and that is Sukkot, which is the festival of booths. Maybe you see, people see in my house, if you come around Delmar, a little bit of a hut that we sit in while we're eating during the week. That's only a few weeks after Rosh Hashanah. Passover, we've talked about that in the past before. People know Passover, you eat the matzah, that's in the spring, March, April. And then about 50 days afterwards, technically, but that's like 7 weeks, of course, which is around June, early June, is the holiday Shavuos. Literally, it means the holiday of weeks. It's just when the Jewish people received the Torah on Mount Sinai 3,300 years ago. So there are holidays, plenty of holidays in Jewish calendar. What makes these Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur the high holidays? Well, this is the beginning of the year, and this is an important point because you could say, well, you know, you see New Year's cards, Jewish New Year cards all over every store. What is it, Jewish New Year's? Well, you could say, you know, it's similar to January 1st. Why is it in September? Well, according to Jewish tradition, the world was created, and this year it's going to be 5,770. It's less than 6,000 years ago. I know that flies in the face of all science and everything you learned in grammar school and in history and the evolution of science. And we've had speakers on that before. And we'll probably have in the future because it's a hot topic, of course. Let's just put that aside and wait for another show. We're not going to deal with that right now. But the bottom line is that when you see a Jewish calendar, they'll have 5770, and that means 5,770 years since the creation of the world. So this is the anniversary of the creation of the world. When you say New Year's, then it really is a new year. It's a new cycle of a year. And that's to be celebrated. Now, how do we celebrate it? Of course, like I said, obviously we know what a New Year's is, January 1st. January 1st, if we can say, is a little bit flippant. People wait for midnight, and then they blow their horns, and they have parties, and they're drinking. Like I say, it's a fun time. It's a happy time. Surely you wouldn't call it a serious time. The only thing maybe you would say, some people always kid around, I'll make a New Year's resolutions to lose weight. And of course, 30 days later, I won't have it. So you hear a little bit of New Year's resolutions, but it's just, I don't know how many people, I never saw statistics, either have them or carry them out, whatever. So that's a little bit of a serious note. But for the most part, I think we can say that's a little bit of a frivolous time, the January 1st. Now look at the Jewish calendar. Now that's what I'm saying. It's very, very serious. It's not a party time. It's not a drinking time. There are holidays for that, but this is not one of them. And because every new year is a new cycle. It's not just, you change the calendar. All right, new calendar, a new year, and that's, cute. But it's very, very serious because according to Jewish tradition, God judges every person, not just the world, every individual, and really it gets further. It's not even individual, every animal, everything in the world, and everything means everything, if what's going to happen to them. They'll live or they're going to die, they'll be rich and they'll be poor. Maybe we should say one note, I guess, I evaded the major issue of, is the world 15 billion years or 6,000 years, which, like I say, is worth a good few shows in its own right because it takes a long time to debate that and talk about that. And like I said, we have and we will in the future, but maybe I shouldn't evade this idea about predestination, meaning that we just said you're going to live or you're going to die, you're going to be rich or you're going to be poor. Obviously the most major issues in life, going to have children, no children. These are the three major ideas that people wish each other for good fortune in the coming year. It's children, life, which means health also, which of course is super important, and making sustenance. And really, if you think about it, that those are the three major needs of a person, but those three things are really in the hand of God. I mean, again, if you can, you don't want to use God's name. Obviously, I prefer to use it. God's in charge of the world, but whatever you want to say, luck, I mean, whatever you even want to say, I mean, we're not in charge. That's the point. Children, there's so many people I have to counsel that they can't have children. The number is about 15%, and it's an outstanding number. First time I heard it many years ago, I remember, I'd say 1 or 2% if you would ask me, and they said, no, it's 15%, and even some doctors told me it's even a little higher than I read. 15%'s a lot. And, they want to have children, and you can't. And again, I know there's all kinds of intervening doctor and medical situations that are helping people along. I'm fully aware of that, but bottom line, first of all, it costs a lot of money, you should know, a lot of trouble, a lot of heartache, and ultimately it's in the hand of God, because even with all this intervention, a lot of people just can't have children. So in a little bit, I mean, obviously you have to do your part. You got to do your part to get married and have children, but on the other hand, to say, well, I'm totally in charge, I'm going to say how many children I'm going to have, and I mean, we can say that there's some, obviously, whatever you want to call luck, unknown factor involved of having children. Health, I mean, maybe I just see this because I'm always counseling people, go to the hospitals, see more people than other people would see that are sickly and in hospitals. But, so it was, unfortunately, I also have to, that's part of being a rabbi, doing funerals also. But you hear stories, and people just, they die. And say, well, I didn't smoke cigarettes, but I still got sick. I hear all these stories. I'm sure maybe if you think your mind, you hear also say, hey, what happened surely with children and then with even adults and old people. People die at 70. It says, well, a lot of people nowadays live into the 90s. 20 years. Why did they die early? So in any case, if you think about it, to me it's clear. I mean, but if you think about a few friends and people and relatives, you'll understand. I mean, obviously, again, you have to do what you have to do. Yes, exercise like the doctors tell you. Yes, you have a good diet. And not saying do nothing. It's totally up to God. You have to do your part. But on the other hand, you can't just guarantee, well, I'm exercising, I eat well, and I know I'm going to live till 100. Well, it just isn't that simple, and I think we can all understand that. And then the third situation, the third idea that we said is really in the hands of God is making a living. And again, same thing. Yes, you have to go to school. Yes, you have to get a job. Yes, you have to do a good job. Sit around the whole day. You'll get fired, obviously. So you got to do your part, to earn a living, obviously. On the other hand, and you see that now we're in a recession, there's some very wise business people, kinds of degrees and all kinds of experience, and the companies go broke. And again, to say I'm a good businessman, I know I'm going to do well, and I know, that there's no other factors involved. Really, I don't see how people can say that. Any person who takes an honest look, that they understand that there's some unknown factor. Again, I'll say it's God that that's in charge. So therefore, if you do need God, then you have to pray to God. Hey, help me out here. I need your help. Well, like I said, with health, with making a living, with children, even to grow up children, even you can throw that in there, raising children up. Had fine parents raising their children up. Again, maybe I see it more than other people because I counsel people. I see more than the usual person in the street. And maybe they open up because I'm a clergyman. People open up and tell me their troubles more than they would to a regular person. Also, I understand On the other hand, I'm sure you've seen good parents raising their child up fine and zonk out and they moan, what did I do wrong? And, it's something, again, you can surely you have to do your part, but to guarantee that everything's going to be 100%, it's going to work out 100% because you're doing everything right, it's far from that idea over here. And it goes the other way. Sometimes I see some, parents that are, tell you honestly, they're not the best parents in the world, and the children are jewels. They're really diamonds. So who's to tell over here, like I say? Like with money, you could also say people win the lottery, and all of a sudden they're millionaires, they did nothing. Who's to tell? Who's to know? We don't know, and that's exactly getting back to our point on the new year. That people really have to pray, and they go to the synagogue. It's very serious. If you're being judged, what's going to happen to you? Again, think about it, life or death. And they always give these examples of the, going to a court, and again, sometimes you never know. Again, we know that also. You see juries, everybody knows the person's so guilty, and then they let him off. And again, I was saying so many times, but I do visit, unfortunately, some Jewish people in prisons, and it doesn't happen often, I know, but it does happen once in a while. You hear someone was convicted in jail for 10, 20 years, and then it came out that they were innocent. So again, who's to tell? And that's the same thing with us. And first of all, we're not perfectly innocent anyway. Who's going to say, I'm a perfect person, I deserve the best year? You got to be honest with yourself. I mean, we are all good people, I know, but there are faults, and, it's, anytime, if a person wants to be picayune with us, hey, why did you do this? Why did you do that? So we're just praying, please don't be so picayune with us, don't be so particular with us. Look at our general person, have mercy on us, and give us a good year and all good things. So that's the seriousness of Rosh Hashana, and that's why it is serious. It's not a frivolous time at all. And then just running that into Yom Kippur, they do call it the 10 days of repentance, and the Medrash, the homiletic ideas of the Torah, they say that at the beginning, the best people are written in the book of life. It's no question. You're just a good person. And then there's evil people, or totally evil, and then they go the other way. But for the most part, and like most people, like I said, we're good people, but we all have faults. And therefore, the books are open. They wait for 10 days to get your act together, just almost like to plead your case. Get your case together and plea it and ask for it and ask for a good year. And then that's the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. The books are open to be ascribed, and hopefully we say the book of life. We surely don't want to be the other way. And that ends off with 5 prayers, five services of prayers on Yom Kippur. Normal day is 3 prayers a day. On your little holiday Shabbos, and I shouldn't say little, they're not so little, that the Sabbath and the regular holidays are 4, but on Yom Kippur it's the one day of the year, which is 5. And therefore that's why you have to do a lot of extra praying. People are in synagogue. If you know yourself, or if you see people, what are you praying so much on Yom Kippur? Kol Nidre is at night, and other prayers are in the day. And it's a whole day of synagogue while we're praying for a good year. And of course, it's being sealed, not only signed, but almost like signed and sealed on Yom Kippur. The last service is when we're sealed. All right, now, as I said, it's a half the show's going on. At least I had to tell you what Rosh Hashana is about. Now comes to the highlight of the day of Rosh Hashana, is the shofar blowing. A shofar, and I have a few here. Could have added some bigger ones. I'll tell you what they're made of. This is a horn. Maybe I'll blow a few notes. These are small ones. They're a little bit hard to blow. I'll try a few notes here. But these are a ram's horn. A ram's horn, like a ram, they have horns. Now, a lot of animals have horns, of course. Cow has horns. Reindeer has. I know that they have horns, but it has to be a ram. So you're first going, well, why a ram's horn? Well, you have to think into the Bible story, where was a ram? And that was when Abraham was told, it was tested, and of course he didn't, but he was tested, commanded to slaughter your son, your only son, Isaac. And he said, craziness, kill my son. Who asked for this? This craziness is surely not part of Judaism. I mean, it's vulgar, it's idols in the past, and all of a sudden you ask for me. But if God wants it, you do it. So he was ready to do it, and it's a long story. Surely can't get into it here also. It's one of the things that we'll have to come back for and talk about, and all the allegorical ideas behind that. It's worth a show in its own right, but not for now. Bottom line is that he was ready to do it. Goes, all right, you passed the test. Says, well, I made an altar. It would have been good to make a sacrifice. Well, there's a ram, stuck its horns in the thickets in the brush, used a ram. So whenever that ram is a good connotation, because God, we're all children of Abraham, and therefore saying, well, if I remember that ram, I remember well. I know it's 4,000 years ago, but God's above time, doesn't have a bad memory. And I remember that ram that Abraham was ready that reminds me that Abraham was ready to slaughter his own son, but he used a ram instead. So that's why the ram. So you want to remember, you have a good defense. You don't want to show out anything bad there. So that's why the ram was used as a horn. Now, like I say, it is part of an animal. I mean, trumpet is a metal, but ram's horn is obviously an animal. So I don't have the facilities here. Sometimes there are places that could show you, and they try to show you what a ram's horn is made of. Well, you see it's hollow. Obviously, if you're going to make an instrument, it better be hollow inside. Something's all stuffed up. Obviously, you're not going to get a sound out of it. So they drill it through, take out the marrow. Again, it's a horn of an animal. And that they make, obviously, I mean, like any instrument, there's a hole in one end, a small hole, like a trumpet, small on one end, big on the other. Obviously, all types of the colors. This is black. Doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't make a difference color. Some are big curly cues. Maybe you've seen that, either people have them or pictures of them. We try to make a little bit of a straighter one. It's our custom, is just in order that it's should be straight from the heart. And I'm going to try to blow a few sounds. Hopefully they come out well. Hopefully it doesn't blow the microphone apart over here. In any case, there are 3 notes. One is the straight note, and now again, these are very spiritual ideas, not just blowing a horn, but the most simple sense is that when you hear a horn, you get all excited and nervous. I mean, same idea when I explain it to people, it would be like an ambulance, all the time, a fire, woo, or a policeman is going around with her sirens, ooh, what's happening? Everybody looks, fire somewhere, ambulance, who, what, you hear an ambulance go what. So that's kind of the idea, or a fire alarm kind of in the olden days. Nowadays, if you're not a fireman, well, it's not for me anyway, when the sirens go off. But on the other hand, I'm not a fireman, so I don't run. But in the olden days, everybody would say, hey, there's a fire, what's happening? Everybody help and chip in, throw a bucket of water and throw it on the fire. So that's what the shofar is supposed to get you nervous. What's nervous? Hey, it's time to do tshuva. There's a life and death situation right here, and let's get it together. So that's the most basic idea. Also, these are sounds emanating from the heart. These are very, very important. And the first note is tekiah, it's called, which just means a shout. Just one straight note. Let's see if I can. A little raspy, I know, but all right. I won't be in the Philharmonic. But in any case, that's a straight note. The next word sounds called shvorim, which means shever in Hebrew means broken. And that's like a person that you're going to see crying out. You'll, oh! Like when you hear something, and if something's broken, you go, when you're really miserable, you, when you're really down. So let's hear that note. That's the shvorim. The second note is going to be 3 like I say, broken notes. Well, it wasn't that good either, but all right. In any case, you get the point. And then third is called a trua, which is more like a whimpering sound, really broken up. It's more like a whimpering, like I said. And that's a person's really broken up. And that elicits that feeling, hopefully, by the person who's listening to it. This is the trua sound. Oh, that was the better one of my blowings, but all right. That is blown. These are the shofar sounds that are blown on Rosh Hashana and the New Year, and that's kind of the highlight of the service. So I say you see those, a shofar is a symbol of Rosh Hashana because that's a very big idea. Like I say, this is a highlight in the symbol of Rosh Hashana. It's supposed to elicit a feeling of tshuva, repentance for a person, to feel broken, like I say, those notes, and alarmed and broken in order to do tshuva over here. Now, a lot of people ask, one more idea of the shofar, that's on Rosh Hashanah. But on Yom Kippur, which really is more the time of fasting of 24 hours, why fasting really makes sense. What we're talking about, a person, you feel, you had just a big meal, you feel good about yourself, should feel happy. Oh, that felt good, and you sit back and you feel good. If you think about it, that's what happens all the time. I mean, that's why they eat at parties. You're just feeling good food, it's tasty, you're full, you're happy. Well, that's not the feeling that they want you to have on Yom Kippur. So therefore, Yom Kippur is a 24-hour day fast, and that includes, some people always ask, that's including no water also, nothing to drink. Zero means zero. And obviously, when a person's fasting, they're not going to be happy and giddy, as if you ever fasted, you know that, and you feel down. I mean, I don't mean to be depressed, but you're not feeling in a lively mood. So therefore, again, obviously, it's a fitting feeling to feel when a person's knowing that it's a very serious situation. I mean, maybe you can even say, people are nervous, I can't even eat. I mean, they're just trying to help you to feel that the seriousness of the day of Yom Kippur. But back to the shofar on Yom Kippur, that and people always ask me that, and that's why I'm telling Kier, so just understand the questions before they're even asked. That there is one shofar sound, just one blast, like that first blast, at the end of Yom Kippur. And the reason is, everybody asks, they come for that. A lot of people say, I come to hear that shofar on Yom Kippur. And the reason is for that as follows. It's a 1-minute explanation. It's not a simple explanation. It goes like this. There is the idea of the Jubilee Year. It's written in the book of Leviticus. And it actually is very famous. And why do I say it's so famous? And most people don't even know about it. Because in America, we know we have the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. And on the Liberty Bell, it is written the words, proclaim liberty, freedom throughout, exactly the exact quote, but that's the point. I translating from Hebrew myself instead of knowing what's on the bell. Proclaim liberty, freedom throughout the nation, and that's the Liberty Bell, which is obviously one of the biggest symbols of the United States of America. And the quote, and they say clearly, is from Vayikra, the Leviticus, and it's exactly what I'm talking about. Well, they didn't ring a bell back then thousands of years ago. We have the bell, but fine. But those times that every 50 year, Jubilee Year, 50 years, anybody was an indentured servant or sometimes slave, no matter who you are, what you were free. It was a free time, and the lands would revert back to the original owners. Because if you remember, that's what I'm saying, it takes a lot of learning, but if you remember the Bible, that they divided the land into the land of Israel originally with Joshua to 12 tribes. So you could sell your land, lease your land, rent your land. You're surely able to do that, but then you lose possession of it, obviously, if you sell it. But then after 50 years, all the land reverts back to its original owner. And that's really an important idea that, there's what to talk about again. I've said it probably the third, fourth time today, that in our half-hour show, that's really a subject in its own right. Economic systems of giving back to the poor. Again, it's just not for now, even though it's worthy of a whole subject in its own right, or its own TV show, its own session. In any case, that when they proclaimed the Jubilee year, they would blow the shofar on Yom Kippur. Why Yom Kippur? Because it's right near the new year, and they would blow a big shofar in, and it'd start the Jubilee year. And that's what it says. So therefore, we do not know when the Jubilee year is. It's only for Israel, when the Jews were in the land, haven't been in the land for 2,000 years. And even though I know obviously there's a land of Israel today, they don't have the whole temple the way it was in Jerusalem. All you see is the western wall of it. And so therefore, out of the doubt, even though we don't do it once every 50 years, you do it once every year, because the doubt could be this year. Maybe it'll be this year. And that's the complicated reason, but it is the reason, the basic reason, why we blow a shofar on Yom Kippur. So proclaim liberty in the land. Like I say, it's so basic. Our country is based on a lot of Bible, and that, for the 100th time I've been saying that, it's a subject its own right, how much of the Bible our founding fathers, surely they knew it, they read it, and they based this country on a lot of Bible ideas. They were biblical people, they were religious people, our founding fathers. The whole nation, the whole culture was based on that, the Pilgrims, the Puritans. That's why I say it's really a whole history lesson in its own right to discuss how our nation was built on these biblical ideas. And that's why the Liberty Bell, which is the symbol, we have Declaration of Independence, it has the idea from the Leviticus, even though it's an obscure commandment that most people don't even know about it. Well, we're out of time. We talked a little bit about Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. Maybe we'll continue about these high holidays. They're so important, they're so beautiful, and the main thing, we should all have a good year.